A couple weeks ago, I installed a brand new solar panel onto the top of our Overland build Toyota Sequoia, and I mentioned when I was putting that video together that I was really pleased with that solar panel setup. However, I wasn't entirely satisfied with the amount of power capacity that we were getting out of our Jackery for powering our fridge overnight. This is the Jackery 240, and don't get me wrong, this is an excellent product. It's really well built. It's got lots of good features, and it really is a nice, convenient package for a power solution such as this. However, the dollar to watt hour capacity is not exceptionally high with a product like this, because you're paying a lot for the convenience of having an inverter and a bunch of other little accessories built in. So all of that is the reason why I've decided to pick up this 100 amp hour AGM Deep Cycle battery that we will use to power our fridge overnight, and then we'll also recharge it during the day with our solar panel. And so that's what I'm going to be showing you today, how I configure this. This isn't like a true dual battery setup, I guess you will, because I'm not planning on actually recharging this with the alternator of the vehicle, although you could easily do that by simply adding something like a DC to DC 12 volt charger. But for now, to keep things simple, given that we already have that 100 watt solar panel up on the roof, we're going to rely on solar. And if for some reason we really need to recharge and we don't have the ability to use solar, we'll have this as a backup. All right, let's take a minute to compare the battery capacity of these two different options for powering your fridge. Over here, the Jackery 240 has 16.8 amp hours. It's lithium, that's one thing we'll keep in mind. This is, of course, a 100 amp hour AGM Deep Cycle battery. Now, it's not really 100 amp hours versus about 17, it's really about 50 amp hours versus 17, because an AGM battery, you really shouldn't discharge it more than 50% for the overall health of the battery, whereas the Jackery is lithium and you can pretty much discharge it just about completely without damaging it. In fact, it probably actually will, it probably prevents you from discharging it more than it should, because it has an internal monitoring system all built into it. However, I bring all of that up to mention the price of these two options. A Jackery 240, I believe they generally run for about $250. Sometimes they go on sale for about $200. And then this battery was $189. So you can see that you're getting a much better capacity to dollar ratio when you compare it to the Jackery. So for something like your fridge, where you really just need to plug it in and you just want to have all the capacity you can, you don't want to worry about running out of juice, this appears to be the way to go. And of course, if you want to be able to charge products that need a 110 household appliance, you'll need an inverter to go with this as well, whereas the Jackery has all that kind of stuff built in. So you can kind of see the difference between the two. I personally think it's kind of a good idea to have both of these products. You know, keep the Jackery for powering your small electronic devices, cameras, and stuff like that, and this seems to be the best way to keep your fridge going for a long period of time. Alrighty, let's talk about all the products that I did purchase to do this project. So of course we've got the battery itself. I do have this inexpensive PWM solar charge controller. This has a max input power of 390 watts. The solar panel that we have on the roof is just 100, and frankly I don't really intend to add any more, so this will be plenty. This is a really inexpensive one. I have these little cables here that will plug into the solar charge controller, and then the other end of them will plug into our cable, our MC4 cable that's already routed down from the top of the roof down into the vehicle. So all of that should be pretty much plug and play. I bought these little battery cables, and I'm intending to snip off the ends of one of them, and that will be the cable that I use to go from the solar controller into the battery. And then finally I have this little guy, a little 12 volt plug. And I also did pick up this battery box here just to kind of contain the whole thing, and I also had some Velcro laying around like that's sticky on the back side of it that I think I'm going to use to adhere the solar charge controller onto the box, just to kind of give it a permanent mounting solution. The whole idea of the box and the charge controller being configured that way is so that I could, in theory, remove the battery from the vehicle without too much fuss. However, it is 60 pounds, so I'm not intending to probably take it out too often, but if I need to, the option is there. All right, we'll go ahead and get into the install of this video. I should mention that I did intend for all of this to be really simple. I'm not an expert when it comes to doing solar and battery systems like this. I've learned a lot just from watching some other videos, so if there's a better way of doing this, feel free to comment, or if you just have questions at the end, I'll do my best to answer them, or maybe I'll link a video to somebody with more skill than me. Alrighty, now the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to cut off the ends of this cable. Alright, so we started by getting this thing cut off here. Now I'm just removing the insulation back. And I know I'm not using the proper tool for this. The proper tool that I do own to do this is in storage at the moment, so I'm just making do with what I've got, and hopefully this will do the job. Alright, so there we go. We've got an exposed portion of this, and then this is just a normal eyelet on the other end. And on this solar charge controller, it's going to go here in this input right here. And essentially what you do is you take a small Phillips head and you put it into these little inputs, loosen them to allow a gap in here, and then you put your cable in and then tighten it down. It's pretty straightforward. Now we'll get the other here. Alrighty, and there you go. We got our two main battery inputs here onto the charge controller. Did I mention this thing is heavy? Alrighty, now we'll go ahead and get this attached here to the actual terminals on the battery, and at the same time we will get the 12-volt plug installed as well. And I should mention that this already comes with a little 15 amp fuse in it, which should be plenty for running our fridge. So the battery just comes with a little bolt nut, a little crush washer, and a normal washer, and basically you just attach your eyelets and run the bolt through and tighten it down. We got all of that in place, and now we will try to get our battery box put together here. Try to position it in such a way that these cables sit underneath the little hoods here. All right, now that should do it for the internal connections. Now just to get the solar panel rigged up. Last but not least, we're gonna go ahead and get these little MC4 cables put in on the solar panel side of the charge controller. All right, and that should do it. Now let's plug it into the solar panel and let's see if we get some charge. All right, so now is a good opportunity to demonstrate the setup we've got here. So we have got our 100-watt rich solar panel. I need to wash it off, but nonetheless, here it is. And we've got a little cable that runs right across here, as you would have seen in the panel install video. It comes down through here, and I've got some zip ties holding it in place. And then I've got it run down here. Now, of course, I was using this little adapter right here that goes from the panel directly to the Jackery, but instead now we've got it set up to go directly into the battery. And as you can see, our little solar charge controller here has recognized input, and it appears to be receiving some sort of charge, albeit probably not very much right now, given that it's the evening and the sun has gone down quite a bit. And of course, one of the nice things about doing it this way is that if I need to charge the Jackery instead of this, I can just disconnect right here, plug in the adapter again, and I'm good to charge the Jackery. Alright, and now we've got a somewhat permanent spot for the battery to live right behind the seat here. And the good thing is if I need to remove it, it won't be too tremendously difficult to do so. Alright, I think that's going to do it for the setup and installation of our secondary battery. We will be updating you as we continue to make videos as to how well it performs. I don't think we're going to have any issues with it, but with us going up to Yellowstone and Grand Teton this upcoming week, we should have a chance to try it out. If you want to purchase any of the products that you've seen in this video, check out the description. There will be Amazon affiliate links down there for pretty much everything that you've seen here. And if you like what you've seen, feel free to subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.